Chapter 1. The night the Omega found her voices, rain came down in sheets, turning the forest road into a river of mud and broken asphalt. Sarah's hands trembled on the steering wheel as her ancient sedan sputtered, coughed, and finally died with a pathetic wheeze that seemed to mock her desperate flight. No, 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 no. Her voice cracked as she turned the key again. Nothing. Just the hollow click of a battery that had given up. Much like everything else in her life, she pressed her forehead against the steering wheel, willing herself not to cry. Crying was weakness. Crying brought them running. 3 years with Marcus had taught her that tears were blood in the water, drawing predators who fed on vulnerability. The bruises on her ribs ached with each breath, a parting gift from 2 nights ago when she'd finally found the courage to run. Marcus's voice still echoed in her skull. You think you can leave me? You're nothing without me. Nothing. Lightning split the sky, illuminating the dense forest pressing in on both sides of the road. She was somewhere in the Cascade Mountains, miles from the nearest town, with no phone signal and a car that had betrayed her just like everyone else. Sarah grabbed her backpack, everything she owned fit inside it now, and stepped out into the storm. The cold rain immediately soaked through her thin jacket, but she welcomed it. Pain meant she was alive. Pain meant she was free. She started walking, each step taking her farther from Seattle, from Marcus, from the woman she'd been forced to become, the one who flinched at sudden movements, the one who made herself small and quiet and invisible. Never again. The thought burned in her chest like swallowed fire. She'd been walking for maybe 20 minutes when she heard a sound that didn't belong to the storm. A low, wounded growl that raised every hair on her arms. Sarah froze, her heart hammering. There, just off the road, in the tree line. She should keep walking, should run. But something in that sound-raw pain mixed with defiance scalded to a part of her she'd buried deep. Hello. Her voice barely carried over the rain. Another growl, weaker this time. Desperate. Sarah pulled out her phone, using its dying battery to cast a thin beam of light into the darkness. The light caught on something massive, something that shouldn't exist. A wolf. But not just any wolf. It was huge, easily the size of a small bear with fur so black it seemed to absorb the light. Blood matted its side, and one of its legs bent at an unnatural angle. Golden eyes met hers, glowing with an intelligence that was distinctly, impossibly human. Oh God, she whispered. The wolf tried to stand and collapsed with a whimper that sounded almost like words. Those eyes stayed locked on hers, pleading. Every survival instinct screamed at her to run. But Sarah had spent 3 years running from her own fear. And she was tired, so tired of being afraid. She moved closer, her hands raised. Easy. I'm not going to hurt you. The wolf's lips pulled back, revealing teeth that could tear her apart. But it wasn't aggression she saw in that gesture, it was warning. Don't come closer. I'm dangerous. I know, she said softly. I know what it's like to be dangerous when you're cornered. But I also know what it's like to be hurt and alone. The wolf stilled. Sarah knelt in the mud, ignoring the way her injured ribs protested. She'd worked at a veterinary clinic before Marcus isolated her from everything and everyone. The wound looked deep, a gash from something with claws. The broken leg needed to be stabilized. I need to touch you, she said, keeping her voice calm despite her racing heart. I need to help you. Will you let me? The wolf steadied her for a long moment, then slowly, deliberately, lowered its massive head. Sarah's hands shook as she reached out. The fur was impossibly soft, still warm despite the cold rain. The wolf flinched when her fingers brushed near the wound, but didn't pull away. Brave boy, she murmured. Or girl. Brave wolf. She shrugged off her jacket and used her keys to cut strips from the inner lining. The wolf watched her every movement with those uncanny golden eyes. As she worked to bind the wound and stabilize the leg, she talked soft, constant words about nothing and everything. I'm Sarah. I'm running away from a very bad man. My car died, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to die of hypothermia out here. But at least I'll die free. She laughed, the sound brittle. Sorry, that's dark. You probably don't need my life story right now. The wolf made a sound something between a growl and a whine. You probably think I'm crazy. Talking to a wolf. Maybe I am. Her hands stilled. But you understand, don't you? I can see it in your eyes. You understand what it means to be trapped. Thunder rolled across the sky. The wolf suddenly tensed, its head snapping toward the darkness. A low, threatening growl rumbled from its chest. Sarah felt it then, the sensation of being watched. Multiple pairs of eyes in the darkness, moving closer. The wounded wolf tried to stand, placing its massive body between her and whatever lurked in the trees. It swayed, weakened by blood loss, but refused to back down. We need to move, Sarah whispered. Can you walk? The wolf took one limping step, then another. Sarah wrapped her arm around its shoulders as much as she could reach, and together they stumbled deeper into the forest. Away from the road, away from the eyes in the darkness, they found a small cave, really just an overhang of rock that provided minimal shelter. Sarah helped the wolf inside, then collapsed beside it, both of them shaking from cold and adrenaline. We make quite a pair, she said through chattering teeth. Two broken creatures hiding from the monsters. The wolf shifted closer, its body radiating heat. Sarah knew she should be afraid, but all she felt was a strange sense of safety. She curled against the massive animal, letting its warmth seep into her frozen bones. Thank you, she whispered. The wolf's tail thumped once against the stone floor dot as Sarah's eyes drifted closed. Too exhausted to fight sleep anymore, she thought she felt the wolf's body shudder. Thought she heard the sound of bones cracking and reforming. But exhaustion pulled her under before she could make sense of it. The last thing she registered was the sensation of strong, distinctly human arms wrapping around her, and a deep voice rough with pain. Who are you? Then darkness claimed her, and she dreamed of golden eyes and impossible things. Chapter 2. When monsters where human fought, Sarah woke to warmth and the scent of pine smoke. For one disoriented moment, she thought she was back in her childhood bedroom, before everything went wrong, before her parents died, before Marcus died. Then the pain in her ribs reminded her otherwise. Her eyes snapped open. She was still in the cave, but a small fire crackled near the entrance, pushing back the pre-dawn darkness. And the wolf was gone. In its place sat a man. Sarah's breath caught. He sat with his back against the cave wall, watching her with those same impossible golden eyes. Dark hair fell across a face that looked carved from stone-all sharp angles, and barely contained danger. He'd wrapped himself in what looked like her jacket, though it barely covered his broad shoulders and chest. Blood still stained his side where the wolf's wound had been. You're awake. His voice was the same one from her dreams, deep, rough, edged with something feral. Sarah scrambled backward until rock pressed against her spine. What easy. He raised one hand slowly, the gesture somehow familiar, like the wolf asking her to trust. I'm not going to hurt you. You're him, the wolf. It wasn't a question. He nodded once, his jaw tight. My name is Kale. That's impossible. But even as she said it, she knew it wasn't. She'd seen those eyes, felt the intelligence burning behind them. People don't just turn into wolves. No. A bitter smile twisted his lips. Not people. Shifters do. The word hung in the air between them. Shifters. Like something from the books she used to read, before Marcus decided what she could and couldn't do. This is insane, she whispered. I'm hallucinating. Hypothermia, or blood loss, or you're not. Kale shifted, wincing as the movement pulled at his injury. And you saved my life last night. Thank you. The sincerity in his voice made her throat tight. When was the last time someone had thanked her for anything? When had anyone looked at her like she mattered? Your leg, she said, focusing on something concrete. Something that made sense. It was broken. And that wound, Healing. We heal fast. He gestured to his side where angry red marks traced the claw gash. By tomorrow, it would probably be gone. Not fast enough when Silver's involved, but fast. Silver? Sarah's mind raced, trying to make sense of this new reality. Like the stories? Some stories are true. Most are wrong. Kel's eyes never left her face, studying her with an intensity that should have terrified her. Instead, she felt seen. Truly seen. Maybe for the first time in years. The ones who attacked me used silver claws. Rogue shifters from the Bloodstone pack. They've been hunting me for 3 days. Fear spiked through her. They're still out there. Not close. I'd smell them. He tilted his head, nostrils flaring slightly. The gesture was distinctly wolfish. I can smell everything. The rain on your skin. Fear in your sweat. And his expression softened almost imperceptibly. Pain, old pain, deep in your bones. Sarah wrapped her arms around herself. Don't what? Don't look at me like that. Like you can see inside me. Her voice came out sharper than intended. You don't know anything about me. I know you were running from something when your car died. I know someone hurt you badly enough that you flinch at sudden movements. Even now. His voice dropped lower. I know you risked your life for a creature that could have killed you. Because you understood what it meant to be wounded and alone. Tears burned behind Sarah's eyes. She blinked them back furiously. Stop it. Why? Because it's true. Kale leaned forward slightly, and she saw the same defiance in his human face that she'd seen in the wolf. You told me last night that you were running from a very bad man. That you'd rather die free than live in a cage. You remember that? Her voice was barely a whisper. I remember everything. His golden eyes held hers. Every word. Every gentle touch while you bandaged wounds that should have made you run screaming. You have no idea how rare that is. How rare you are. I'm not rare. I'm broken. The words slipped out before she could stop them. So Michael's expression shifted. Something raw and honest breaking through. The Bloodstone pack wants me dead because I refused to follow their alpha. Because I challenged their right to hunt humans for sport. Because I'm a threat to the old ways. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. I've been running for months. Alone. Always alone. And then a woman with more courage than sense found me bleeding in the rain. And decided I was worth saving. Sarah's hands twisted in her lap. I'm good with animals. It's just instinct. I'm not an animal. I know. She met his eyes again. That's what scared me. Even as a wolf, you were to human. Kel's expression softened. And even as a human, I'm still too much wolf. Something passed between them in that moment recognition. Understanding. To creatures caught between worlds. Belonging nowhere. Why didn't you just tell me? Sarah asked. Last night, before I passed out? Would you have believed me? Or would you have thought I was another monster trying to hurt you? He paused. Besides, I was barely conscious. Shifting while injured nearly killed me. But you did it anyway. I needed to hold you properly. To keep you warm. His voice was matter of fact, but he crept up Sarah's neck. Your lips were turning blue. I thought you were going to die. The memory surfaced strong arms, warmth, a voice in the darkness. Oh, silence settled between them, broken only by the crackle of the fire and the steady drip of water from the cave entrance. Dawn light was beginning to filter through the trees outside. What happens now? Sarah finally asked. Kel's jaw tightened. Now I heal enough to move. Then I keep running before the Bloodstone pack finds my trail again. And me? You hike back to your car. Flag down help. Go wherever you were going before fate decided to drop you in the middle of my war. But something in his voice said he didn't want that. Didn't want her to leave. Sarah should agree. Should thank him and walk away from this impossible situation. Back to the human world where she understood the rules. Even if those rules had nearly destroyed her. But when she opened her mouth, different words came out. What if I don't want to go back? Cal's eyes widened slightly, the first crack in his controlled facade. What? You said it yourself. I was running too. From a life that was killing me slowly. She took a shaky breath. Maybe fate didn't drop me here by accident. Sierra. The way he said her name made her shiver. You don't know what you're saying. My world is dangerous. Violent. There are rules and politics, and I'm tired of being afraid. She lifted her chin, that burning determination from last night flaring back to life. I'm tired of being weak, of being prey. Cal stared at her for a long moment. Then slowly, impossibly, he smiled. It transformed his entire face, turning the dangerous stranger into something beautiful and terrifying. Then I suppose, he said quietly, we'll have to teach you how to bite back. Asterisk. Asterisk Chapter 3. The scent of Truthy left the cave an hour after dawn. When Cal declared himself strong enough to move, Sierra had watched, mesmerized and horrified, as the wounds on his side continued to knit themselves closed, flesh mending at an impossible rate. Does it hurt? She'd asked, unable to look away. Everything hurts. He'd pulled on the shirt she'd found in her backpack too small for his frame, stretching across his shoulders. You learn to live with it. Now they moved through the forest in silence, Cal leading with the sure-footed grace of someone who knew these woods intimately. Sierra struggled to keep up, her city-soft feet protesting every root and rock. She refused to complain, refused to be the weak thing holding him back. Stop, Cal said suddenly. Sierra froze. What? Are they? You're limping. He turned to face her, those gold eyes seeing too much. And you're bleeding through your shirt? She pressed a hand to her ribs automatically. It's nothing. It's not nothing. He closed the distance between them into strides. Let me see. No. The word came out harsh, defensive. She took a step back and immediately regretted it when pain lanced through her side. Cal's expression shifted, not anger, but something worse. Understanding. He broke your ribs. It wasn't a question. Sierra looked away, shame burning in her throat. They're just bruised. Sierra. Cal's voice was gentler than she expected. I can smell the blood. The infection's starting. You need medical attention. I can't go to a hospital. Marcus, she stopped, hating how his name still had power over her. He'll find me. He always finds me. Then we'll treat it here. Cal was already scanning their surroundings. There's a stream nearby. Clean water. And I know which plants can help with infection. You know medicine? A shadow crossed his face. My mother was a healer. Before, he didn't finish the sentence. They found the stream 15 minutes later. A ribbon of crystal water cutting through ancient trees. Cal gathered moss, herbs Sierra didn't recognize, and what looked like tree bark. He worked with practiced efficiency, grinding ingredients between stones. Shirt, he said without looking at her. Sierra's hands trembled as she reached for the hem. The fabric had stuck to the wounds 3 days old now, from when Marcus had thrown her against the kitchen counter. She refused to make a sound, refused to give him the satisfaction. This is going to hurt, Cal warned. Everything hurts. She echoed his words from earlier. I've learned to live with it. His hands stilled. When he looked at her, something fierce burned in those golden eyes. You shouldn't have to. The words hit harder than any fist. Sierra blinked rapidly, refusing to cry. Cal's fingers were surprisingly gentle as he peeled the shirt away from her skin. She felt him tense when he saw the full extent of the bruising purple and black and yellow, painting a map of violence across her ribcage. Mother of the moon, he breathed. Sierra, don't. She kept her eyes fixed on the trees across the stream. Don't pity me. That's not pity. His voice was rough, barely controlled. That's rage. If your Marcus were here right now, I'd tear his throat out with my teeth. The savage honesty should have frightened her. Instead, something inside her chest loosened a knot she'd been carrying for so long she'd forgotten it was. There, he said I deserved it, she whispered. That I was difficult. That I made him lose his temper. Kel's hands stopped moving. Look at me. She didn't want to. Didn't want to see judgment or confirmation of all the terrible things she believed about herself. Sierra, please. The please broke her. She met his eyes. Nothing you did, nothing you could ever do would justify this. Each word was precise, deliberate. He hurt you because he's a coward who feeds on fear. Because he needed to feel powerful. And the only way he could do that was to break someone gentler than him. I'm not gentle. Yes, you are. And that terrifies men like him. Kale resumed cleaning her wounds. His touch feather-light despite the obvious strength in his hands. Gentleness isn't weakness. It's choosing not to cause harm when you have the power to do so. It's the hardest kind of strength there is. Sierra watched him work. This impossible man who'd been a wolf 12 hours ago. Is that why the Bloodstone Pack wants you dead? Because you're gentle. A bitter laugh escaped him. No one has ever called me gentle. But you refuse to hunt humans. You said that's why they're after you. It's more complicated than that. He applied the poultice he'd made, and Sierra hissed at the sting. Sorry. The infection is worse than I thought. He began wrapping her ribs with strips torn from his own shirt. The Bloodstone Alpha, Rourke, believes shifters are superior to humans. That we have the right to take what we want, do what we want. Most packs maintain the old treaties we live in the shadows. Humans remain ignorant. Everyone survives. But not Bloodstone. No. Rourke wants war, wants to claim territory openly, and he needed someone strong enough to lead his warriors. Kel's jaw clenched. He wanted me. You said no. I challenged him instead. In front of his entire pack. Kale secured the bandage, his fingers lingering for just a moment on her skin. I lost, barely escaped with my life, and now I'm marked for death. Any shifter who helps me shares that sentence. The implications settled over Sierra like a cold blanket, which means by helping you, I've made yourself a target. Yes. He finally met her eyes. That's why you should go, Sierra, while you still can. Before they catch my scent on you, she should be terrified. Should be running as fast as her injured body could carry her. But all she felt was that same burning determination. No. Sierra, you said you'd teach me to bite back. She lifted her chin, ignoring the pain in her ribs. So teach me. I'm not running anymore. Not from Marcus. Not from monsters in the woods. Not from my own fear. Kale stared at her like she was something miraculous and terrible. You don't know what you're asking for. Maybe not. But I know what I'm walking away from. She took a shaky breath. I've been praying my whole life. Kale. Pray for my foster families after my parents died. Pray for Marcus. Pray for everyone who saw something soft and decided it was meant to be broken. Her voice strengthened. I want to be something else. Something that fights back. Becoming a fighter doesn't mean you stop being gentle. Then teach me to be both. She held his gaze. Teach me to be like you. Something shifted in Kel's expression, wonder mixed with fear, mixed with something. That looked almost like hope. You're absolutely insane. Probably. A small smile tugged at her lips. But I saved your life. So you're stuck with me now. That's not how it works, isn't it? Sierra tilted her head. You said shifters have rules. Well, I'm making up my own rules. And rule number 1 is, I don't abandon people who need me. I don't need. He stopped. Something vulnerable flashing across his face. I've been alone for so long. I know, Sierra said softly. Me too. The forest sounds filled the silence between them, bird calls, rustling leaves. The gentle rush of water. Kale reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and brushed a strand of damp hair from her face. His fingers were warm. Careful. Stay with me, he said, and I'll teach you everything I know. How to move like a predator. How to trust your instincts. How to survive in a world that wants to devour you. His thumb traced her cheekbone. But know this, once you choose this path, there's no going back to who you were before. Good. Sierra whispered, I never want to be her again. Kel's hand dropped away. but his eyes held hers. Then we start tomorrow. Today, you rest and heal. He stood, offering his hand. There's an abandoned ranger station about 2 miles from here. We'll be safe there. For a while. Sarah took his hand and let him pull her to her feet. His palm was rough with calluses, strong and steady. Like maybe, finally, she found someone who wouldn't let go when things got hard. Cale? She said as they started walking again. Yeah. Thank you for believing I'm worth saving. He glanced back at her, and that devastating smile returned the one that made him look almost human. You saved me first, remember? Maybe we saved each other. Maybe, he agreed quietly. Maybe we did. Asterisk. Asterisk Chapter 4. Lessons in the dark ranger station was barely standing windows boarded up. Roof sagging. Nature reclaiming what humans had abandoned. But it was shelter. And more importantly, it was hidden. Cale checked every corner, every shadow, before finally allowing himself to relax. It's secure. He announced. No recent scents except deer and raccoons. Sarah collapsed onto the dusty floor, her legs finally giving out. The walk had taken everything she had. How do you do that? Just know things by smell? Practice. Instinct. Cale was already gathering old wood from a fallen shelf, building a fire in the ancient stone hearth. Your human nose is capable of more than you think. You've just never been taught to listen to it. Listen to my nose? Despite her exhaustion, Sarah smiled. That's not how senses work, isn't it? He glanced at her, eyes glinting in the growing firelight. Close your eyes. What? Close them. Trust me. Sarah hesitated, then obeyed. Immediately, the world shifted. Without sight, every other sense sharpened. She heard the crackle of kindling catching fire, the whisper of Kel's breathing, the rustle of fabric as he moved. Now breathe, he said, his voice closer than before. Deep. Tell me what you smell. She inhaled slowly. Smoke, pine, mildew from the old wood. She paused, focusing. Something else. Something warm. That's me. His voice was right beside her now, and she felt the heat of him though they weren't touching. Every living thing has a scent. Shifters can read them like words on a page. Fear smells sharp, like copper. Joy is sweet, like honey. Grief? He paused. Grief smells like rain on cold stone. Sarah opened her eyes. Cale sat cross-legged beside her, close enough that she could see gold flecks in his irises. What do I smell like? Something shifted in his expression, caution warring with honesty. Lavender. Steel. And he looked away. Hope. You smell like hope, Sarah. Even with everything you've survived. Her breath caught. No one had ever described her that way. Broken, yes. Weak, countless times. But hope? I don't feel hopeful. You wouldn't be here if you weren't. Cale fed another branch to the fire. Running toward danger instead of away from it? That's not despair. That's someone who still believes things can be better. Or someone who has nothing left to lose. Maybe. He studied her in the flickering light. But I don't think that's you. I think you have everything to lose. Your freedom. Your newfound courage. Your life. His jaw tightened. Which is why I need you to understand what staying means. Really understand. Sarah shifted to face him fully, ignoring the protest from her ribs. Then explain it to me. All of it. The truth. Cale was quiet for a long moment, staring into the flames. When he spoke, his voice was distant, haunted. I wasn't born into Bloodstone. I was born into Silvermane pack that valued honor, balance with nature, protection of the innocent. My mother was their healer. My father was their beta, second only to the alpha. He smiled without warmth. I was supposed to follow in his footsteps, become beta when he stepped down. Instead, I watched Bloodstone slaughter them all. Sarah's hand moved instinctively to cover his. His fingers were cold despite the fire. I was 19, out hunting when the attack came. By the time I got back, he closed his eyes. There was nothing left to save. Rourke wanted our territory, wanted to absorb our pack into his. Anyone who resisted died. My mother tried to negotiate. She was a healer, she believed in peace. His voice broke. He killed her first. Made my father watch. Cale, Sarah's throat ached with unshed tears. I should have been there. Should have fought beside them. Instead, I survived. The word dripped with self-loathing. Rourke found me after, offered me a place in Bloodstone, said I had potential, that the strong survive and the weak perish. And I'd proven myself strong by living. You didn't know. I accepted. The confession hung between them like smoke. I was angry, broken, and he offered me purpose, direction, a way to channel all that rage. He finally looked at her, and the pain in his eyes was devastating. For 2 years, I became exactly what he wanted, a weapon. I did things, Sarah, terrible things. She should pull away, should recognize the monster hiding beneath the man. But all she saw was someone drowning in the same guilt that had haunted her, the guilt of surviving, of not being strong enough when it mattered. What changed? She asked softly. A girl. Kel's laugh was bitter. Her name was Elena. Human. 17 years old. Rourke ordered us to hunt her pack of hikers, make it look like an animal attack, send a message to the humans encroaching on what he considered our territory. He swallowed hard. She begged me to let her go. And I saw my mother in her eyes, saw every innocent person we'd ever sworn to protect. You let her go. I let them all go. Turned on my own pack to give them time to escape. He pulled his hand from beneath hers, as if he didn't deserve comfort. Challenged Rourke right there. Told him I wouldn't be his butcher anymore. We fought for hours. He was stronger, more experienced. Should have killed me. His fingers traced the scars hidden beneath his shirt. But he wanted me to suffer first. Wanted me to run and hide and know that death was coming. So he let me crawl away with just enough life to keep running. That was 6 months ago. 7. Been moving ever since. Never staying anywhere long enough to risk bringing his wrath down on innocence. He met her eyes again. Until you. The weight of that statement settled between them. I'm endangering you just by being near you. Cale continued. The moment Rourke's hunters catch my trail, they'll know you've been with me. They'll assume you mean something to me. Do I? The question escaped before Sarah could stop it. Cale went very still. You shouldn't. That's not an answer. No, he agreed quietly. It's not. He stood abruptly, putting distance between them. You should sleep. Tomorrow we start training, and I won't go easy on you just because you're injured. It was dismissal, clear as day. But Sarah had spent 3 years learning to read the space between words and actions. Cale wasn't pushing her away because she meant nothing. He was pushing her away because she meant too much. Cale, she said as he moved toward the door, presumably to keep watch. Thank you for telling me the truth. He paused, his back to her, shoulders tense. The truth is I'm a killer trying to pretend I'm still, capable of being anything else. The truth is you're someone who found his conscience when it mattered most. Sarah pulled the thin emergency blanket from her backpack, wrapping it around her shoulders. Someone who chose mercy over obedience. That's not a monster. That's a hero. I'm no hero. Maybe not yet. She lay down, using her backpack as a pillow. But you're trying to be. That counts for something. Cale didn't respond, but she heard the subtle shift in his breathing, felt the weight of his gaze even through the darkness. Sarah? His voice was barely a whisper. Yeah, if they come, if Bloodstone finds us, I need you to promise me something. Her heart clenched. What? Run. Don't try to fight them. Don't try to save me. Each word sounded torn from somewhere deep inside him. Just run and don't look back. Sarah stared at the ceiling, at the gaps where moonlight filtered through broken boards. I can't promise that. Sarah, you didn't run when it mattered. You stood and fought even though you knew you'd lose. She turned her head to find his silhouette in the doorway. Don't ask me to be less brave than you. Silence stretched between them, heavy with things neither could say yet. You're going to get yourself killed? Cale finally said. But there was something else in his voice now. Something that sounded almost like admiration. Probably, Sarah agreed. But at least I'll die fighting. Die free. That's more than I had 3 days ago. She heard him exhale a sound caught between frustration and something softer. Get some sleep, Sarah. Tomorrow, we teach you to survive. As she drifted off, exhaustion finally claiming her, Sarah could have sworn she heard him whisper, and I'll teach you to live. Chapter 5. Breaking Point dawn came cold and unforgiving. Sarah woke to find Cale already outside, his silhouette dark against the pale morning light filtering through the trees. She watched him through the cracked window, the rigid set of his shoulders, the way his hands kept clenching and unclenching at his sides. He looked like a man preparing for war. Or saying goodbye. She pulled on her jacket and stepped outside. The grass was wet with dew, soaking through her worn sneakers immediately. Cale didn't turn, but she knew he'd heard her. He heard everything. You didn't sleep, she said. Neither did you. His voice was rough, unused. I could hear you tossing and turning all night. Sarah wrapped her arms around herself against the chill. Hard to sleep when someone's standing guard like a soldier expecting an ambush, because I am. He finally turned to face her, and the exhaustion in his eyes made her chest ache. They could be here today, tomorrow. I need you ready. Then teach me. Something flickered across his face, fear, maybe, or reluctance. Sarah, you said you would. Yesterday, you said tomorrow we'd start training. She stepped closer, lifting her chin. It's tomorrow. For a long moment, he just looked at her, really looked at her, the way he had last night when his hand had covered hers in the darkness, like she was something precious and terrifying all at once. This isn't going to be easy, he warned. Nothing about this has been easy. The corner of his mouth twitched, not quite a smile, but close. Fair enough. He gestured toward the clearing behind the cabin. Come on then. Let's see what you're made of. The clearing was small, ringed by towering pines that blocked out most of the early morning sun. Cale moved to the center, his movements fluid and precise. Predatory. First lesson, he said, turning to face her. How to fall without breaking. Sarah blinked. That's your idea of training? Falling. When you're fighting something stronger than you, and trust me, everything in Rourke's pack is stronger than you're going to hit the ground. A lot. His eyes were serious now. All business. The difference between walking away and not walking away is knowing how to fall. So, yes, we start with falling. Before she could respond, he moved. One moment, he was standing 3 feet away. The next, he was behind her. His arm hooked around her waist. Her feet left the ground and suddenly she was falling, but he controlled the descent, lowering her with careful precision until her back touched the damp grass. His face hovered inches above hers, his weight braced on his forearms to keep from crushing her. See, his breath was warm against her cheek. Tuck your chin. Protect your head. Roll with the momentum. Sarah's heart hammered against her ribs. Not from the fall. From the weight of him above her, the heat radiating from his body, the way his eyes had gone dark and intense. This close, she could see the flecks of gold in the amber of his irises, could smell pine and leather and something wild underneath. He seemed to realize how close they were at the same moment. His jaw tightened and he pushed himself up, offering her a hand. She took it. His palm was warm and calloused, and when he pulled her to her feet, the strength in that simple gesture made her dizzy. Again, he said, releasing her hand quickly. Too quickly. This time, I won't control it. You will. They practiced for hours. Cale was relentless, pushing her to fall and roll, teaching her how to absorb impact with her legs instead of her spine, how to twist in midair to land on her side, how to use momentum instead of fighting it. He demonstrated first each time. his body moving with an animal grace that shouldn't have been possible for someone so large. Then he'd come at her slow at first, giving her time to react. But as the morning wore on and she started to understand the mechanics, he moved faster, harder. "Don't think," he told her after she hesitated, freezing when he came at her. "Your body knows what to do. Trust it." Easy for you to say. You're practically invincible. His expression darkened. "I'm not. None of us are." He moved closer, reaching out to adjust her stance, hands on her shoulders, repositioning her feet with his. Silver to the heart. Decapitation. Fire. His voice dropped. "We die just like anything else." The way he said it made her stomach twist. Like he'd seen it happen. Maybe caused it to happen. "Kale, focus." His hands slid down to her waist, positioning her center of gravity. "When I come at you this time, don't freeze. Move." He stepped back, waited, then lunged this time. Sarah didn't think. She twisted, dropped her weight, and rolled. The impact jarred her shoulder, but she came up in a crouch, breathing hard but unharmed. When she looked up, Kale was staring at her with something that might have been pride. "Good," he said softly. Again. By midday, Sarah was exhausted, covered in dirt and grass stains, and sporting what would definitely be bruises tomorrow. But she'd also managed to evade Kale's last 3 takedown attempts. And the look on his face when she'd actually swept his leg, not enough to drop him, but enough to make him stumble, had been worth every ache. They sat in the grass catching their breath. The afternoon sun finally warm enough to take the chill from the air. "You're a natural," Kale said, surprising her. Most humans would have given up hours ago. Most humans aren't being hunted by werewolves, true. He glanced at her, and for just a moment, the walls came down. "You're braver than you think you are, Sarah." "I'm terrified," she admitted. "Every second of every day." "I know." His voice was gentle. "But you show up anyway. That's what bravery is." She wanted to tell him that he was the brave one. That's saving her, protecting her, teaching her all of it took a kind of courage she was only beginning to understand. But before she could find the words, his entire body went rigid. His head snapped toward the tree line, nostrils flaring. "What?" she started, but he held up a hand, cutting her off. "Someone's coming," he whispered. "Get inside. Now." The command in his voice left no room for argument. Sarah scrambled to her feet, but before she could run, Kale caught her wrist. "Whatever happens," he said, his eyes burning into hers. "Whatever you see, don't run into the woods. Stay in the cabin. Lock the door. Promise me, Kale, promise me." "I promise." He released her, and she ran. Behind her, she heard the sound of bones beginning to crack and reshape, and knew with terrible certainty that whoever was coming, they weren't human. And neither, anymore, was Kale. Chapter 6. The visitor Sarah pressed herself against the cabin wall beside the window, heart thundering in her chest. Through the grimy glass, she could see Kale standing in the clearing, perfectly still, waiting. He hadn't shifted. Not completely. Whatever sound she'd heard, that terrible cracking, had stopped. He stood there in human form, but everything about him had changed. The casual teacher from moments ago was gone, replaced by something primal and dangerous. His shoulders were broader somehow, his stance lower. Ready. A figure emerged from the tree line. Sarah's breath caught. Another werewolf? Had to be. The way they moved was too similar to Kale, that same predatory grace, that same supernatural awareness of their surroundings. But as the figure stepped into the clearing, Sarah realized it was a woman. She was tall, lean, with dark hair pulled back in a braid and sharp features that might have been beautiful if they weren't so hard. She wore practical hiking clothes, but moved like someone who could shed them and her human skin in a heartbeat. "Kale." The woman's voice carried clearly to the cabin. "Been a long time." Kale didn't relax. Not long enough. Maya. The name meant nothing to Sarah, But the way Kale said it tight, controlled, where he spoke volumes. Still a charmer. I see. Maya circled him slowly, keeping distance between them. 7 months you've been gone. 7 months of Rourke tearing apart the countryside looking for you. Do you have any idea what you've put us through? Us. Cal's voice was sharp. You're still with him. After everything? Where else would I go? Maya stopped circling, facing him directly. Not all of us have the luxury of running away from our pack. Some of us have to live with our choices. I didn't run away. I left. Semantics. Maya's eyes narrowed. You broke pack law, Kale. You defied a direct order from your alpha. You know what that means. I know what it should mean. Death, quick and clean. Cal's hands flexed at his sides. But Rourke's dragging this out. Why? Through the window, Sierra saw something flicker across Maya's face. Regret. Sympathy? It was gone too quickly to tell. You were his best, Maya said quietly. His favorite. He wants you to come back, to remember what you are. A killer, you mean. A protector. Maya took a step closer. Kale tensed but didn't retreat. You protected the pack. You kept us safe. What you did for Rourke, what we all did, it kept wolves alive in a world that wants us dead. By killing innocent people? There are no innocent people. Maya's voice hardened. There are threats and non-threats. That girl you saved, Elena, she wasn't innocent. Her father was part of a hunting coalition. They'd killed 3 of our pack the year before. Children, Kale. They killed children. Sierra saw Kale flinch. For a moment, he looked lost, uncertain. He didn't tell me that. He said finally, would it have changed anything? Maya asked, would you still have let her go? Kale was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was rough. Yes. Maya shook her head, something like pity in her expression. That's your problem, Kale. You still think like a human. You still think their rules apply to us. She paused. But I didn't come here to debate philosophy. Then why did you come? To warn you. Maya glanced toward the cabin, and Sierra jerked back from the window. But not fast enough. When she dared look again, Maya was smiling. She's watching. You're human. The one you picked up in Portland. She's not mine, Kale said too quickly. No? Maya's smile widened. Then you won't care that Rourke knows about her. Knows you've been traveling with her. Protecting her. She took another step closer. You know what he'll think, don't you? What we all think. I don't care what you think. You should. Because Rourke's convinced you care about this girl. And if you care about her, Maya let the implication hang in the air. He's coming, Kale. Not to kill you. To take what you care about and make you watch while he destroys it. Then, maybe, he'll let you die. The clearing went deadly silent. When Kale spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper, but Sierra heard every word. Tell him she's nothing to me. A mistake. Wrong place, wrong time. I don't think he'll believe that. Make him believe it. Something desperate crept into Kel's voice. Please, Maya, for what we used to be. Make him believe she doesn't matter. Maya studied him for a long moment. You're begging me to save her life, and you expect him to believe she doesn't matter? Kel's shoulders sagged. The fight went out of him all at once, and he looked more human than Sierra had ever seen him. Vulnerable. Afraid. How long? He asked. How long do I have? 2 days. Maybe 3. Maya's voice softened. He's gathering the pack. All of us. This won't be a hunt, Kale. It'll be an execution. Then I need to get her somewhere safe. Somewhere he can't find her. There is nowhere he can't find her. Not if she's with you. Maya moved closer still, and this time Kale let her. She reached out, almost touching his face, then dropped her hand. But there might be somewhere you can't find her. Kel's eyes sharpened. What are you saying? Give her to me. I'll take her east, far from here. Tell her to forget you. Forget all of this. She goes back to her life. You face Rourke alone. Clean break. Maya's voice dropped. It's the only way she survives this. He'll kill me. Yes. And you're okay with that? Maya's mask cracked, just for a second. No, but I'm okay with her living. And deep down. So are you? Inside the cabin, Sarah's hands were shaking. She pressed them against the wall, trying to steady herself. They were talking about her like she wasn't there. Like she didn't get a choice. Like she didn't matter. I need time to think, Kale said finally. You have until sunset tomorrow. Maya turned to leave, then paused. For what it's worth, I'm sorry about all of it. You deserved better than this. We all did. Maya disappeared into the trees as silently as she'd arrived. Kale stood alone in the clearing, his head bowed, looking more defeated than Sarah had ever seen him. She should stay inside. She'd promised. But she'd also promised herself she wouldn't be a victim anymore. Sarah unlocked the door and stepped outside. Chapter 7. The choice girl's head snapped up the moment the door opened. His eyes still holding traces of that inhuman gold locked onto hers with an intensity that should have made her retreat back inside. Instead, Sarah walked toward him. I told you to stay in the cabin, he said, his voice flat. I heard everything. She stopped a few feet away, close enough to see the tension radiating through every line of his body. You're not sending me away, Sarah. No. The word came out stronger than she felt. You don't get to make this decision for me. You don't get to sacrifice yourself because you think I'm some helpless thing that needs protecting. You do need protecting. His voice rose, frustration bleeding through the careful control. Did you not hear what Maya said? Rourke is coming with his entire pack. Not to kill you quickly to make you suffer. To make me suffer by watching. Then we run. Together. Like we've been doing. There's nowhere left to run. The words exploded from him, and for the first time since she'd met him, Kale looked truly desperate. Don't you understand? He'll never stop. Never. Not until he has what he wants. Which is you. Which is me broken. Kale turned away, his hands clenching into fists. He doesn't just want me dead, Sarah. He wants me destroyed. And the fastest way to destroy me is through you. The admission hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning. Because I mean something to you, Sarah said quietly. Cal's shoulders went rigid. You shouldn't. But I do. She moved closer. Close enough now that she could see the muscles jumping in his jaw. You can push me away all you want, Kale. You can tell me I'm nothing. That I'm just some human you picked up by accident. But we both know that's not true anymore. It has to be true. His voice was ragged. It has to be, or you die. And I can't. He broke off, his breath coming harsh. I can't watch another person die because of me. Elena, the 3-pack members I killed when I ran. The humans I hunted before I grew a conscience. He finally turned to face her, and the anguish in his eyes nearly broke her heart. Everyone I touch, I destroy. It's what I was made for. That's not what I see. Then you're not looking hard enough. Sarah closed the remaining distance between them. She was close enough now to feel the heat radiating from his skin, to see the way his hands trembled with the effort of holding himself back. I see someone who gave up everything to save a stranger, she said. Someone who spent 7 months running, not to save himself, but to keep a human girl alive. Someone who could have left me behind 100 times but didn't. I should have. His voice was barely a whisper. That first night in Portland, I should have walked away. Why didn't you? The question hung between them. Kale stared at her, his jaw working like he was trying to find the right words, or trying not to say them at all. I don't know, he said finally. I smelled your fear, and something in me just responded. Every instinct I have should have told me to leave you there. You were a complication, a liability. But when I looked at you, he stopped, shaking his head. It doesn't matter now. It matters to me. It shouldn't. Stop telling me what I should feel. The frustration finally boiled over, and Sarah grabbed his arm. His skin was fever hot beneath her fingers. You can't dictate my emotions, Kale. You can't decide that I should hate you or fear you or whatever else you think I should feel. That's not how this works. How what works? She faltered. What was this exactly? This thing building between them over days of running, nights of whispered confessions, moments of desperate vulnerability? This, she said finally, helplessly, us. Whatever this is, Kale looked down at her hand on his arm. When he spoke, his voice was impossibly gentle. There is no us, Sarah. There can't be, because you're a werewolf. Because I'm a monster. He pulled away from her touch, and the loss of contact felt like a physical wound. You saw what I am, what I was. The things I've done don't define you. Sarah stepped forward, closing the gap he'd created. You're not your worst moments, Kale. None of us are. You think I don't have things I'm ashamed of. Things I wish I could take back. It's not the same. You're right. It's not. She reached up, hesitated, then placed her palm against his chest. His heart was racing beneath her hand, faster than any human heart should beat. But I'm not asking you to be perfect. I'm asking you to let me make my own choices. And I choose to stay, even if it kills you. Even then, she held his gaze, refusing to look away. Because the alternative is living as someone who runs at the first sign of danger. Someone who abandons people when things get hard. And I've been that person, Kale. I've spent my whole life being that person. I won't do it anymore. Something shifted in his expression. The walls he kept so carefully constructed began to crack. You're going to get yourself killed, he said, but there was no heat in it. Only resignation. And something else. Something that looked almost like hope. Maybe. She managed a small smile. But at least I'll die brave. Isn't that what you called me? Brave? Foolish is more accurate. I'll take foolish. For a long moment, they stood there. Her hand on his chest, his eyes searching hers for something she desperately hoped he'd find. The afternoon sun filtered through the trees, casting dappled shadows across his face. This close, she could see the individual flecks of amber in his eyes, the slight scar above his left eyebrow, the way his lips parted slightly as his breathing quickened. Sarah. Her name was a warning, a prayer, a surrender. Yes? If you stay, his hand came up, covering hers where it rested over his heart. If you stay, I can't promise I'll be strong enough to let you go when the time comes. Then don't. Her voice was steady despite the fear and want warring inside her. Don't let go. His fingers tightened over hers. You don't know what you're asking. I know exactly what I'm asking. The air between them seemed to thicken, charged with all the things they weren't saying. All the things they were both too afraid to name. Finally, Kale broke the silence. We have until sunset tomorrow. Maya will come back for an answer. And what will you tell her? His thumb traced small circles on the back of her hand, the gesture unconscious and devastating in its tenderness. That depends. On what? On whether you change your mind? His eyes held hers. Between now and then, I need you to really think about this, Sarah. Not about being brave or proving something to yourself. Think about what you're trading. Your life. Your future. Everything you could be. For what? The corner of his mouth lifted in something too sad to be a smile. For probably dying into days alongside a werewolf who doesn't deserve your loyalty. Sarah turned her hand beneath his, lacing their fingers together. His hand engulfed hers, warm and solid and real. You keep telling me what you don't deserve. She said softly, maybe it's time you let me decide what you're worth. Chapter 8. Nightfall spent the rest of the afternoon in careful silence. Kale disappeared into the woods once to patrol the perimeter, he said, and once for reasons he didn't explain. Sarah watched him go both times, noting the tension in his movements, the way he kept glancing back at the cabin, at her. When he finally returned the second time, the sun was beginning its descent toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of amber and gold. He found her sitting on the cabin's front step, her arms wrapped around her knees. "You should eat something," he said, not quite meeting her eyes. "There's soup. Canned, but it's something." "I'm not hungry." "Sierra, I'm not hungry," she repeated, more gently this time. "But I could use some company. If you're offering." He hesitated, that familiar war playing out across his features. The part of him that wanted to maintain distance warring with the part that was already too close to turn back. Finally, he sat down beside her on the step, careful to leave a few inches of space between them. It felt like miles. "How did you end up with Rourke?" Sierra asked after a moment. "You said your pack was massacred, but how did you go from that to him?" Cale was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. When he finally spoke, his voice was distant, like he was pulling the words from somewhere deep and painful. "I was 17 when the hunters came, young for a wolf, barely in control of my shifts." He stared out at the darkening forest. "They killed my parents first, made me watch. Then my sister." Sarah's breath caught. "Cale, I survived by playing dead. Lay there in my family's blood until the hunters left." His hands clenched on his knees. "When Rourke found me 3 days later, I was half feral, starving, had shifted and couldn't shift back. He brought me into his pack, taught me control, gave me purpose, revenge. At first, he convinced me that every human was responsible, that they all knew what their hunters did and chose to look away." Cal's jaw tightened. "For years, I believed him. I wanted to believe him. It was easier than accepting that my family died for nothing, that there was no grand conspiracy, just hate and fear and ignorance." "What changed?" "Elena." The name came out rough. She was supposed to be simple. A hunter's daughter, barely 18. Rourke said she was being trained to hunt us, that she needed to be eliminated before she became a threat. He paused. "But when I found her, she was just a kid, studying art history at community college, worked part-time at a bookstore. She had no idea what her father did on weekends." Sierra could picture Ikale standing over some terrified girl, seeing his own sister's face instead. The moment everything he'd built his new life on crumbled. "You let her go." "I let her go." Told her to run and never speak of what she'd seen. To never tell her father she knew what he was. Cal's voice hardened. "Then I went back to Rourke and lied. Told him she'd gotten away, that I'd lost her trail. He didn't believe me." "How did you escape?" "I didn't. Not at first." His hands were shaking now, subtle tremors he tried to hide. "He locked me up. 3 days of convincing me to tell the truth, to embrace what I was, what he'd made me." Sarah's stomach twisted at the implications. "Cale, on the 3rd night, Maya helped me escape. She shouldn't have. It broke pack law, put her at risk. But she did it anyway." He finally looked at Sarah, and the gratitude in his eyes was almost painful. "She's not evil, you know. None of them are. They're just trying to survive in a world that wants them dead. By killing innocents, by doing what Rourke tells them their only choice is." He held her gaze. "That's what makes him dangerous. Not his strength or his pack. His ability to make good people believe they're monsters who have no choice but to act like monsters." The words settled over them like a shroud. In the growing darkness, Sierra could barely make out Kel's features, but she felt the weight of his confession, the trust it took to share this with her. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For what?" "For telling me. For trusting me with this." Cale made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Trust. That's a dangerous word, is it? Because I trust you." She shifted slightly closer, closing some of that careful distance. "I trust you with my life, Cale. I have been for days now. You shouldn't. Stop telling me what I should do." But there was no heat in it, only a gentle insistence. "I'm not Elena. I'm not some innocent you stumbled across. I made a choice to stay with you, to keep staying with you. That's on me. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple." She turned to face him fully now. drawing her knees up so she could angle toward him. You keep trying to carry all the responsibility, all the guilt. But I'm not your burden, Kale. I'm your... She trailed off, suddenly uncertain. What were they to each other? Allies? Friends? Something more complicated and undefined? My what? His voice was softer now, almost vulnerable. I don't know, she admitted. But I know what you're not. You're not my captor. You're not my protector who gets to make all my decisions. You're someone I care about. Someone who cares about me, whether you want to admit it or not. The silence stretched between them, heavy with unspoken things. Finally, Kale reached out, his hand hovering near her face like he wanted to touch her but didn't quite dare. You're right, he said finally. I do care. Too much. That's the problem. Why is that a problem? Because in days, maybe less, Rourke is going to come. And if I care too much, if he sees that I care too much, he won't just kill you, Sarah. He'll make sure your death is the last thing I see before he kills me too. He'll make it slow, painful, a lesson to anyone else who thinks about defying him. Sarah's mouth went dry, but she didn't look away. Then we have 2 days. 2 days, he echoed, something breaking in his voice. So stop wasting them trying to push me away. She reached up, catching his still hovering hand and bringing it to rest against her cheek. His palm was warm, slightly rough, and trembling. Please, Kale, just stop fighting this. Whatever this is. For a heartbeat, he was perfectly still. Then, slowly, his thumb traced the line of her cheekbone. The touch impossibly gentle for someone who'd spent years as a weapon. You're asking me to be selfish, he whispered. I'm asking you to be human. I'm not human. No, she turned her face into his palm, feeling the steady thrum of his pulse in his wrist. But you're not a monster either. You're something in between. Something that feels and hurts and wants. And right now, I think you want to stop running from this as much as I do. His breathing had gone uneven, his eyes searching hers in the dying light. If I do this, if I let myself want you, I won't be able to let you go when Maya comes tomorrow. Good, Sarah. I said good. Kale. She held his gaze, letting him see everything she'd been too afraid to show. The fear, yes, but also the want. The need for connection, for something real in the midst of all this terror. Because I don't want you to let me go either. The last of his resistance crumbled visibly, like watching a wall finally give way after days of pressure. His other hand came up to frame her face, both palms now cradling her like she was something precious. This is a mistake, he breathed. Probably. We're both going to regret this. Maybe. His forehead dropped to rest against hers, and Sarah's eyes fluttered closed at the contact. They stayed like that, breathing the same air, trembling with the weight of everything they were about to cross. 2 days. He whispered against her lips. Then make them count. Chapter 9. Sir Underkale didn't kiss her. Not yet. Instead, he stayed there, forehead pressed to hers, his hands framing her face like she might disappear if he let go. Sarah could feel the war still raging inside him, desire against duty, want against wisdom. Tell me something true, she whispered into the space between them. Something you've never told anyone. His breath hitched. Why? Because I want to know you. The real you. Not the weapon Rourke made, not the protector you think you need to be. Just you. For a long moment, she thought he'd retreat again, pull away and rebuild those careful walls. But then his thumb traced her jawline, a touch so tender it made her chest ache. I'm afraid, he said finally, the words barely audible. Every moment of every day. Afraid I'll lose control. Afraid I'll become what he made me. Afraid I'll hurt someone who doesn't deserve it. His voice dropped even lower. Afraid I already ate that monster, and I'm just too deluded to see it. Sarah's hands came up to cover his where they rested against her cheeks. You're not. You can't know that. I can. Because a monster wouldn't be afraid of becoming one. She opened her eyes. finding his face inches from hers in the near darkness. A monster wouldn't have spent 7 months protecting someone who slows him down. Wouldn't lose sleep standing guard. Wouldn't teach me to fight when he could just leave me behind. Maybe I'm just selfish. Maybe keeping you alive makes me feel less. Stop. She squeezed his hands. Stop trying to poison every good thing about yourself. You're allowed to be more than your worst moment, Kale. You're allowed to be more than what Rourke made you. His eyes closed, and she felt a shudder run through him. I don't know how to be anything else. Then let me show you. The words came out braver than she felt. Let me see you. All of you. Not just the parts you think are acceptable. Sarah, you don't understand what you're asking. The wolf. She said it clearly, certainly, before her courage could fail. I want to see the wolf. Kale went perfectly still. When his eyes opened again, they were wide with something close to panic. No, why not? Because he pulled back, his hands dropping from her face. The loss of contact felt like frost. Because that's the part of me that's dangerous. That's the part Rourke used. The part that is still you. Sarah caught his wrist before he could retreat further. You said it yourself. You're not just human. You're something in between. So show me the between. I could hurt you. You won't. You don't know that. His voice was strained, desperate. When I shift, the instincts are stronger. The wolf thinks in territory and pack and prey. If I lose control for even a second, you won't lose control. She tightened her grip on his wrist, feeling his pulse hammering against her fingers. Because I trust you. Completely. That trust could get you killed. Then I'll die knowing I saw all of you. Not just the parts you think are safe. Kale stared at her like she'd suggested something incomprehensible. In the darkness, his eyes had begun to gleam with that inhuman gold, catching the last rays of dying sunlight. He looked torn between wonder and terror. Why does this matter so much to you? He asked finally. Because you keep parts of yourself locked away like they're shameful. Like they make you less worthy of... She stopped, realizing what she'd almost said. Of what? His voice was soft. Dangerous. Of being cared about. She finished, the words catching in her throat. You keep saying you're a monster, that I should be afraid, that you don't deserve my trust or my... She couldn't quite say the other word. Not yet. But how can I know what I feel if you won't let me see all of you? Understanding dawned slowly in his expression. You want to see the wolf to prove to yourself you're not afraid. No. Sarah shook her head. I want to see the wolf to prove to you that I'm not afraid. That whatever you are, human or wolf or something else entirely, I'm still here. I'm still choosing this. The words hung in the air between them, weighted with meaning neither of them was quite ready to fully acknowledge. Kel's jaw worked silently. Then, slowly, he stood up. Sarah's hand fell away from his wrist as he stepped down from the porch, moving into the small clearing in front of the cabin. He turned back to face her, and even in the darkness, she could see the conflict written across his features. If I do this, he said quietly, and you change your mind about staying about us, I won't blame you. I won't change my mind. Sarah, show me. Her voice was steady despite her racing heart. Please. For a long moment, Kale just looked at her. Then, finally, he nodded. His hands went to the hem of his shirt, pulling it over his head in one fluid motion. Sarah's breath caught at the expanse of skin revealed scarred in places, muscled. Undeniably human, but somehow also wild. The shift hurts less than it used to, he said, his voice already changing, roughening. But it's still not pleasant to watch. I can handle it. He huffed something that might have been a laugh. Then his body began to change. It wasn't like the movies. There was no dramatic music, no slow motion transformation. It was brutal and organic and strangely beautiful. His spine curved, bones cracking and reforming with sounds that made Sarah's stomach clench. His face elongated, jaw stretching into a muzzle as his teeth lengthened into fangs. Fur rippled across his skin like ink spreading through water dark gray and silver. the same color as his hair. Sarah gripped the edge of the step, forcing herself not to look away. This was Kale. This was still Kale Dot in less than 30 seconds. The man was gone. In his place stood a wolf that easily stood 4 feet at the shoulder. Massive, powerful, with eyes that still held that unsettling gold. Those eyes, Kale's eyes locked onto her with an intensity that froze her in place. The wolf took a step forward, then another, moving with a predator's grace toward the porch. Toward her. Every instinct in Sarah's body screamed at her to run. This was what had hunted her in Portland. This was what had killed. What could tear her apart in seconds if it chose to? But she didn't run. Instead, she slowly stood up, her movements careful and deliberate. She descended the 2 steps from the porch, bringing herself level with the wolf, close enough to see the way his nostrils flared, scenting her fear. Close enough to see the individual hairs in his fur, the way they shifted with each breath. "Kale," she said softly. The wolf's ears twitched forward at the sound of his name. Sarah extended her hand, palm down, the way you might approach a nervous dog. Ridiculous, maybe, for something that could kill her without effort. But somehow it felt right. "It's still you," she whispered. "I see you." The wolf stared at her outstretched hand for a long moment. Then, slowly it seemed to take an eternity, he lowered his massive head and pressed his muzzle to her palm. His fur was softer than she expected. Warm. She could feel the rapid beat of his heart through her hand, matching the frantic rhythm of her own. The wolf's eyes closed, and a sound rumbled through his chest, not quite a growl, but something deeper, something that felt almost like relief. Sarah's other hand came up, fingers trembling as they sank into the thick fur at his neck. "I'm not afraid," she said, and realized it was true. "Not of this. Not of you." The wolf pressed closer, his weight solid against her legs. She could feel the power coiled in his muscles, the raw strength that could so easily destroy. But there was also something else, a gentleness in the way he leaned into her touch, careful not to knock her over despite his size. "You're beautiful," she whispered, surprised by the truth of it. "Both of you, human and wolf, you're beautiful." The wolf made that sound again, and Sarah could have sworn she saw something like wonder in those golden eyes. They stood like that for long minutes, her hands buried in his fur, his warmth seeping into her skin. The night settled around them, and for just a moment, there were no hunters, no death sentence hanging over their heads. Just this, a girl and a wolf and the fragile, impossible thing growing between them. Finally, the wolf stepped back. The air shimmered, and bone and muscle began to reshape once more. Sarah watched the transformation reverse itself, watched as the wolf gave way to the man. Kale stood before her again, breathing hard, completely vulnerable. His eyes found hers in the darkness, searching for disgust or fear or rejection. Instead, Sarah stepped forward and wrapped her arms around him. He went rigid with shock. Then, slowly, his arms came up to encircle her, pulling her close. Chapter 10. Unguarded, they stayed like that for a long time, wrapped in each other's arms as the night deepened around them. Kel's skin was still fever warm from the shift, his heart hammering against Sarah's cheek where it pressed to his bare chest. She could feel the tremors running through him, aftershocks from the transformation. Or maybe something else entirely. "You're shaking," she murmured. "I know." His voice was rough, raw. "No one's ever." He stopped, his arms tightening around her. "After I shifted, no one's ever held me like this." Sarah pulled back just enough to see his face. His eyes were still slightly wild, caught between human and something other. "What do you mean?" "In the pack, after a shift, it's about dominance. Establishing hierarchy. You either submit or you fight." His jaw tightened. Touch is always about power, control, never just this. "Comfort," Sarah supplied softly. "Yeah." The word came out like a confession. I'd forgotten what that felt like. She reached up, tracing the line of his jaw with her fingertips. His stubble was rough against her skin, grounding her in the reality of him. Human. Here. Real. You're freezing, Kale said suddenly, seeming to notice for the first time that she was trembling too, but from cold, not emotion. Come inside. I'll start a fire. He grabbed his discarded shirt, pulling it on as they moved toward the cabin. Inside, the temperature had dropped with the setting sun, their breath visible in small clouds. Kale worked quickly, building a fire in the old stone fireplace while Sarah wrapped herself in one of the moth-eaten blankets from the bed. When the flames finally caught, casting dancing shadows across the walls, Kale sat back on his heels. He stayed there, staring into the fire, his profile sharp in the flickering light. What you did out there, he said finally, not looking at her. Touching the wolf? That was incredibly stupid. Probably. I could have killed you. One wrong move, one moment of instinct overriding control. But you didn't. Sarah moved to sit beside him, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. You let me in. That's what matters, is it? He turned to face her, and the vulnerability in his expression nearly undid her. Because now I can't pretend anymore, Sarah. I can't pretend this is just about keeping you alive until I can get you somewhere safe. I can't pretend you don't. He broke off, shaking his head. I can't pretend. Then don't. She shifted closer, closing that last bit of distance. I'm tired of pretending too. Tired of pretending I don't think about you every moment. That I don't want to know everything about you. That I don't. She stopped, the words catching in her throat. Too much, too soon. They had to days. Maybe less. Was it fair to say things that might make leaving or dying even harder? That you don't what? Kel's voice was quiet, but there was an edge of desperation in it. Like he needed to hear whatever she was about to say. That I don't wish things were different. She said instead the coward's version of the truth. That we had more time. That there wasn't a death sentence hanging over both our heads. Something flickered in his eyes. Disappointment? Maybe. Or relief. We don't get to choose our circumstances. No. But we choose what we do with the time we have. She took his hand, lacing their fingers together. His palm dwarfed hers, warm and calloused and solid. And I choose this. You, whatever that means. Kale stared down at their joined hands like he was trying to memorize the sight. When Maya comes tomorrow, he said slowly, I'm going to tell her we're not separating. That we face Rourke together. Sarah's heart stuttered. That's a death sentence for both of us. Maybe. Probably. He looked up, meeting her eyes. But at least we'll face it together. At least I won't spend whatever time I have left wondering if you're safe. If you hate me for sending you away, his thumb traced circles on the back of her hand. At least I'll know you chose this. That it wasn't me making decisions for you. It's not very logical. No. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. But then, nothing about this has been logical. From the moment I caught your scent in Portland, logic went out the window. What did I smell like? That first night? The question seemed to surprise him. His eyes went distant, remembering. Fear, mostly. Sharp and acrid. But underneath, he leaned closer, his nose nearly touching her hair. Underneath was something else. Something that made the wolf in me take notice. What? Sarah's voice had gone breathy. Hope. He breathed the word against her temple. You smelled like hope. Like someone who'd been beaten down, but hadn't broken. Like someone worth protecting. And now? She turned her face toward his, their lips mere inches apart. What do I smell like now? Kel's eyes darkened, pupils dilating even as that gold flared around the edges. Like you're mine, he said roughly. Like you've been marked by me. Scent claimed whether either of us meant for it to happen. Like anyone who comes near you will know you're under my protection. The possessiveness in his tone should have alarmed her. Should have sent up red flags about control and ownership. But instead, it sent heat pooling low in her stomach. Is that a wolf thing? She managed. It's a me thing. His free hand came up to cup her face. tilting it toward the firelight. The wolf knows what it wants. Always has. It's the human part that's been fighting it. And now I'm tired of fighting. His forehead dropped to rest against hers, exactly like earlier on the porch. But this time, there was no hesitation in his touch, no careful distance. I'm tired of pretending I don't want you, that every moment near you isn't torture, that I don't think about what it would be like to. He cut himself off, jaw clenching. To what? Sarah prompted, her heart racing. To stop being the protector for just one night. His voice had gone rough, almost desperate. To let myself have something good before the end. To be selfish enough to take what I want instead of what's right. The fire crackled between them, the only sound in the heavy silence. Sarah's mind raced. They had so little time, so little certainty. Tomorrow, Maya would come. The day after, or maybe even before Rourke and his pack would descend. Every moment was borrowed, stolen from a future that might never come. What if I want you to be selfish? The words came out barely above a whisper. What if I want you to stop thinking about what's right and just? Feel Kel's breath caught. Sarah, we have tonight. She reached up with her free hand, fingers threading through his hair. Maybe that's all we'll ever have. So why waste it holding back? Because his voice cracked. Because if I let myself have you, even for one night, and then I lose you, you'll lose me anyway. The brutal truth hung between them. Whether you push me away or pull me close, the outcome's the same. Rourke is coming. We both know what that means. Don't. The word came out harsh. Don't talk about it like it's inevitable, isn't it? She held his gaze, refusing to let him hide from the truth. You said yourself there's nowhere left to run. So maybe instead of spending our last hours running or pushing each other away, we could just be together, completely. Kel's control was crumbling visibly. She could see it in the tension of his shoulders, the way his hands trembled where they touched her, the rapid rise and fall of his chest. He was holding on by a thread, and they both knew it. If I do this, he said, voice strained. If I stop holding back, I need you to understand something. What? The wolf doesn't do casual, doesn't do temporary. His eyes burned into hers. If I claim you tonight, really claim you, it means something. To me, to the wolf, it means you're mine in every way that matters, for however long we have. And I'm yours, completely. Do you understand what I'm saying? Sarah's throat tightened with emotion. This wasn't just about physical desire. This was about connection, about choosing each other in the face of certain death, about making something real out of borrowed time. I understand, she whispered, and I'm still saying yes. For one heartbeat, Cale was perfectly still. Then something in him shattered all that careful control, all that restraint. Breaking like glass under too much pressure. His hands slid from her cheek to the back of her neck, fingers tangling in her hair. Last chance, he breathed against her lips. Last chance to change your mind. I'm not changing my mind. Then God help us both. And finally, he kissed her.